Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Rombauer debate. The Rombauer Hour. We are here today in the Sierra Foothills, broadcasting live from our winery up here. We're about an hour east of Sacramento. We're actually celebrating the completion of the 2020 harvest, which has been a fun, drink to that. And today I'm joined by my winemaking team, so I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, Luke Clayton, winemaker.
Hi, I'm Michael Code, Associate Winemaker here in the Sierra Foothills.
Andrew Holloway, Associate Winemaker and Resident American.
And I'm Richie Allen, I'm the Director of Viticulture and Winemaking. I have the job of wrangling these mofos around.
But most importantly, we're here to talk about the 2020 harvest and of course, more importantly, Zinfandel.
Yeah.
So today I would like to obviously invite you all to charge your glasses with some Rombauer Zinfandel. Today we want to encourage everybody to be fun and informative and interactive. So please type your comments in the stream below or in the comment box, and we'd love to answer some of your questions.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Let's head over to Andrew and talk about some of the Zinfandel.
Yeah, let's kind of see what we're going to work through today.
What wines are we going to taste?
Well,
Andrew?
so starting down by Luke, we have the 2018, that is our classic Rombauer Zinfandel. And then we're going into our two single vineyard Zinfandel. So next is the 2018 Gino Rinaldi, the Fiddletown Zinfandel, really one of the cult favorites around Rombauer, and actually not released until January. But tonight only, we are doing a special Rombauer.com only sale of the Fiddletown Zinfandel. So get it tonight for 5 more hours, and then it'll be available in January. So you want it before the holidays.
Get it for Christmas.
I guarantee
Get it for Christmas.
This wine, the 18 especially, and you'll see it across the board in the 18s, are incredible. Like, just best vintage I've seen in a little while.
Yeah. And what else are you trying?
until
you got through 2 wines.
I did. So sometimes, 2 is a little bit much for me. And then 3, we're going to our next single vineyard, which is our state vineyard, the Twin Rivers, which is located in El Dorado County, just about 2 miles from our current location as the crows flies. And then finally, 2018 Proprietor's Reserve Selection, which is really the best barrels of every single vintage that we pick into one wine. So it'll be a really fun tasting and really eye-opening for the 2018. So I look forward to it.
It is going to be fun. But I guess we probably should talk about, why Zinfandel and how did Rombauer start making Zinfandel. It was the 4th varietal that we ever made. And it was in the early 1990s that Colonel Rombauer met a local winemaker up here who was telling him about how great the Zinfandel was, about the expanses of old vine vineyards that Amador has. And it actually has more old vine Zinfandel than any other place in the world. So Kerner came up here, met a bunch of the local growers, tasted a bunch of the wines, and got to see the vineyards and the grapes, and he was convinced it was going to be the place to make Zin. And it has a very, very long history of Zinfandel up here, going back to
Gold
mid
Rush.
to late
Gold Rush,
1800s, the Gold Rush. The oldest vineyard across the road here, Grand Pere, was planted in 1869. So the history that this region has with this varietal is exceptional, and it is one of the best places in the world to make it. And that's how we ended up here. We started purchasing fruit originally. A lot of you might remember a wine called El Dorado, which was actually from the Twin Rivers vineyard, which we made for a number of years. And that eventually became the classic Rombauer Zin. In 2011, that vineyard actually came up for sale, and there's a slide up of it right now, the Twin Rivers vineyard. And we purchased that outright in July 2011. So it's something that's very, integral to the Rombauer family, this region, and we have a very firm and strong belief that the best Zinfandel in the world comes from the Sierra Foothills, and that's why we're here.
We've been silent partners for up here for a long time, though, haven't we?
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know we're up here, buying grapes. As I said, in the early 90s, we started buying fruit up here, and we used to truck all of it down to Napa in refrigerated trucks and make it all down there. But in the last 18 months, we managed to buy our first winery up here. And that's where we're standing today. That's where we have our second taste room, which we'd love you to come and see and taste our wines. And it really is, it feels like home to me.
Yeah, and it's awesome too, because just 5 minutes from here, we've got so many vineyards, so many growers that we have been dealing with so many years that we've been able to keep the quality up instead of shipping it. They can pick at night, and then the fruit's here at 4 a.m. and then these guys start processing it. So we really are retaining that freshness, improving the quality, being up here ourselves physically as well. and then
Well,
making great wines.
Yeah, I think the whole facility, just dedicated mainly to Zinfandel, has been able to really focus on that varietal and bring out the best
Oh,
characteristics.
do you make the
of it.
Zinfandel up here, do you?
No,
Oh, wait, no, it's this guy, the new guy.
no, we're passing the torch.
Yeah.
Yes. To the new guy.
Yeah.
But it is being so much closer to the fruit. It allows greater control and to make better wines, basically. Or Michael.
Yeah, why don't you tell us why? It's your first harvest with Rombauer. You're the newest winemaker on the team. What brought you to Rombauer? Why? How did we convince you to come work with us three crazy idiots?
Well, it was one fantastic wine night, and well, the rest we forgot. But it was
It's very true.
Yes.
No, but seriously though, we deal with some of the oldest growers in probably all of California. There's some of the founding fathers of the wine history in California, particularly starting around in the during the Gold Rush era.
Yeah.
We deal with Tom Dillion, who's across the way. He's probably one of the oldest families here, along with Dick Cooper, and along with Ken Diva. Those are the three oldest generations. I think they're
And the
up to
Cranes?
five generations. Yeah, the Crane
That's
as well.
crazy.
So there's a long history, and a lot of the vines that we get fruit from are up to 100 years old. From some of those growers, I would say on average, we're probably what?
We're about 30% old vine Zinfandel is what goes into the classic Rombauer Zin.
Which old vine is generally pre-war,
Yeah,
pre-World War II.
pre-Second World War II, so pre-1944 is what we sort of, when we talk about old vines, we talk about vineyards that were planted pre-Second World War.
And why old vines? What's the significance of old vines? It's mainly because a lot of the old vines are on their own roots, and we consider that to be some of the X factor. They're obviously dry grown, which means they don't get irrigation. They are deep rooted. They've been here forever. And once you get to know an old vine vineyard, it's got its own personality. Every year it goes up and down, and it's quite a dramatic shift.
Yeah.
And you'll see in the Gino Rinaldi, when we talk about the Fiddletown blend,
Yep.
that wine changes every year. But the good thing about Old Vine Zin, it produces a very elegant, well-refined wine that's just, it might not have the color, but it's definitely got the length and structure
Yeah, there's
that is
something
just so enticing.
There's some about old vines that have this, Michael mentioned this X factor. They have a depth and a concentration and like an intangible element on the palate that makes them better than everything else. It's the only way I can describe it. It's
can't
not
fake
something
it.
we can measure.
You can't fake it, really.
It's not something we can fake. We can't make a young vineyard taste like an old vine vineyard, but that quality that you get from those old vines, stood for generations. I mean, that's the hallmark that we build all of our Zinfandels on, especially the Rombauer Zin and the Gino Rinaldi and the Prop.
I think now that we've discussed it enough, I don't think anyone wants to hear us discuss these vineyards and talk about it forever. I think we really need to take an in-depth look behind the scenes and see what it actually looks like when we're picking and bringing that fruit in during harvest. So I think we have a beautiful video made, and you'll get to see it live.
That'd be cool. Let's have a look.
Hi guys, I'm Rich Allen, the Director of Winemaking for Rombauer Vineyards. Today we're in El Dorado County at our Twin Rivers Vineyard. It's a 148 acre parcel, mainly planted the Zinfandel. We've been picking through tonight and we've just finished. We started picking here just after Labor Day, and it's been going for about a month, and we've got about 4 days left. The crew last night picked about 45 tons of Zin, and what we have here is a Zinfandel cluster. A lot of people ask, how do we decide to pick? What we're looking for is a certain sugar level, about 27 to 28 bricks, but also a particular flavor. And when we get the right jammy flavors that we're looking for, that's the moment we decide to pick. From here, we're going to cut to the winery and you'll see how we turn this into wine.
Thanks, Richie. I'm Michael Code. I'm the associate winemaker here at the Sierra Foothills facility. The fruit has just been picked up at Twin Rivers, gone through the weigh scale, and it's been laid out, and they're going to start loading it into the hopper. It goes through a shaking table, then goes through a distemmer, and the distemmer leads into the optical sorter. One of the greatest assets that Rombauer has is the optical sorter. It's a high-speed camera system that takes lots of pictures over the belt with jets of air. It will separate all the leaves, and we'll be left with nothing but perfect whole berries that go into our fermenters. We pump it over 4 times a day for 10 to 14 days to get as much color and flavor as we can out of these berries. We then put the wine to barrel for 12 months, then we blend it and bottle it. We're out in Gold Country where the best Zinfandel is grown, so I invite you to come and enjoy a glass of wine with us.
Well, that was a nice little video. How many goes did it take you to get your lines out there, Michael?
Oh, none. Look at it. It was just one. It was seamless.
One shot.
Seamless, it was awesome. Must have
So
you
I'm just
guys,
going to
Richie.
put a little footnote to that. So when we were making that video, I had to do my part, and I had these two jokers there paying me out the whole time. But then when it came to doing his part, it took him a few more goes. So, so it's amazing the magic of editing that can make you look so good.
It almost got to the point where it became funny all the way to sad.
Well, what's sad is you're not giving everybody a full picture. You just see me fail there. You didn't know that I was up
You
20
did a great
hours the
job.
night before.
All right, let's focus. All
Focus,
right, enough about
yeah.
his greatness.
So the
Let's-
2020
This is a
vintage.
debate.
Yeah.
What are we here for?
The debate? Yes, we're debating. The 2020 vintage, I think we should talk a little bit about that because it has been a incredibly challenging year,
well publicised.
but still very, very high quality. So a lot of you would have seen online and on the news the effect of fires in California, and that's definitely something we've been dealing with. I'd like to say a big thank you to the first responders. They saved the winery in St. Helena. It was, when I say it was touch and go, the fire burnt right up to the winery, but those first responders were there with us to save the day. So a big,
huge
massive
thank you
to them.
Yeah.
But with that, what was the first fire called? The Hennessy fire and the glass fire. That had a huge impact on the vintage, and some of that is still unknown, and some of that is known. So with the white grapes, especially Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc, all those were in at either before the first fire started or during the first fire, and it's all in barrel, and we're really, really happy with the quality. It's a very, very high quality year, and for the most part, nearly all of it seems to be completely fine. It does take a while to find out the effects of smoke taint, and it can take several months. But knowing the analysis, the early analysis we have, the condition of the grapes when we pick them, the exposure, we're highly confident that all of those wines are okay. Well, we know they're okay.
And we'll continue to evaluate and taste.
And if it's not right, it won't get blended and bottled. Yep. With the red grapes in Napa, it's been a lot more challenging. There's definitely some smoke exposure. We have seen some smoke taint. It's pretty similar to what we saw in 2017 with some of the lots. And at the end of the day, if those grapes aren't up to scratch, like in 2017, they won't be blended into Rombauer wines, and we won't be using them. And we will not compromise quality ever at Rombauer to try and make more wine. It's just something that we do. It's quality first, worry about everything else later. And that's probably the greatest luxury I know we have as a winemaking team, is that the final decision on a blend and a volume always rests with us. With Zinfandel up in the Sierra foothills, we were so far away from the fires, and Zinfandel as a varietal reacts different to something like Pinot Noir or Cabernet in terms of how much smoke taint it picks up. But because it's a different varietal and because it's further from the fires, we haven't seen any smoke taint up here. So we've been carrying through harvest, and we finished picking a week ago? Monday last week. We haven't seen the effects of it, so it's been pretty amazing. And the quality of the wines we're seeing this year, the quality of the Chardonnay and the Sauvignon Blanc and the Zinfandel is extraordinary. I haven't seen concentration in Zinfandel and colour like this since 2013. And 2013 was one of the best vintages I've ever seen. So I'm quietly excited about the 2020 harvest, despite all the challenges we've had.
Andrew and I were up here last week, went through and tasted tanks with Michael, and the quality's there, and at the moment they're very fruit forward and soft.
They're so plush.
They are.
But
so
there's depth and concentration that you just don't see that early on, that it's not going to be a great vintage. There's such a high quality potential, and so basically from here on we just can't screw it up.
Yeah, as long as we don't mess it up, you will get great 2020 wines. That's the reality.
But the fruit coming in looked exceptional.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate, especially being here, that having this facility and the ability that they were able to do here, and having Michael up here.
The relationships with our growers that we have up here, the fact that we own half of our Zinfandel vineyards, half the amount of Zinfandel grapes we get is from vineyards that we own. It's all up here. We're incredibly fortunate, and I guess I'm trying to plug the region, Sierra Foothills and Amador and El Dorado, because it's the quality of the wines up here this year is
awesome. It's still unknown.
It's such an unknown region.
I'd also, just to reaffirm for our lovers, that Chardonnay is.
Who are you making love
No,
to?
Chardonnay is okay, and everything, and Chardonnay seems to be the least effective of everything on that side. Yeah, especially, and Chardonnay is safe in barrel, and potential is there as well.
Yeah.
If you looked at the fruit coming in, it's incredible.
And one of the things about Rombauer is we have facilities that are designed so we can take whatever fruit we can pick and process it as fast as we can.
Yep.
So if we
Whilst
decide
preserving that quality.
while preserving the quality, so that picking decision you have for different varietals can be very, very small. So for Chardonnay, it can be a matter of days between being perfect and no good. And in a situation like this year where we had fires, we were able to pick that fruit very, very fast because it was perfect and get it through the winery. We didn't have to go, well, we can't take that fruit today.
Yeah.
We have to delay it and leave it out there in the smoke for another week. We could pick it and we can do it and we can make the high quality wines. And we've designed all of our wineries like that. And what it comes down to is if we need to do our harvest in 10 days, we can do our harvest in 10 days. It wouldn't be pretty. We'll all be exhausted. It means we all have to work 20 hours a day for 10 days.
It can be
but
done.
we can do it. And that's the greatest luxury we have. And that's how we preserve the quality and make the wines so consistent year after year. So
Yeah, I mean, we're at the will of our fruit. The fruit's not at the will of our facility.
exactly.
It's a big shift from what you normally see.
But I feel like we've been yakking a lot and not talking about
Yeah, I bet you everyone's already on their second glass.
listening to us.
Michael is. So let's dive into our wines. So I get luxury of talking about our classic Rombauer 2018.
What are we tasting? 18s?
2018.
2018.
Everything 18.
So all 18s in,
Yeah.
18 another great vintage.
Yep.
It was
Sort of just
super
continued
rich,
on
super
through.
plush wines.
18 was a warm vintage, not too hot. The wines were very plush, very soft tannins, very fruit forward. Like great wines that we're drinking are very well young but will age well.
Yep.
Don't worry, you'll eventually get a word in.
Yeah, I know.
All right, talk about the wine. I'll shut up and have some water.
Let's hear about the California Zinfandel.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew Ritchie. Pleasure to be aboard here. All right. So the classic
debating
Rombauer 2018. So it comes from 4 regions. We've got the El Dorado, the Amador, the Napa, and the Lake County. So basically having all these regions and counties in there adds layers and texture to the palate of the wine. So from Lake County, from Dina Ranch, we see a lot of spice. We have a little Titsera up there that gives a bit of structure. And then also from Napa County, we get that like rich raspberry, strawberry jam. And then as we move to Amador with our growers, with some of these heritage vines and stuff, like each vineyard, each site adds another section, another layer to our wine, either spice, or jamminess, richness, or texture on the palate. And then just 2 miles away, as Andrew said earlier, our Twin Rivers El Dorado Ranch, which adds a lot of depth and richness. But I don't want to steal Andrew's thunder for later because the Thunder had a lot of not very well.
We got kicked out. It's okay.
It's
okay.
So let's give it a quick taste anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing that leaps out of the glass to me, it's a young wine. The Zinfandel has a lot of spice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Super
I mean,
spicy.
you've got that jammy fruit, but there's that, classic varietal intensity of spice in the background.
Well, I think even if you take your first sip, I think on the palate you get more fruit, but as you take that second and third sip, you really see the next layers come out. And the fruit you start to get accustomed to how intense that fruit is, and you really start to see the spice come out, especially like you said from the Dina Ranch.
Yeah.
I mean, you get those white pepper notes, some tobacco leaf.
Yeah,
Something like that.
and
It's
what
beautiful.
helps us with that intensity is
yeah.
all our reds are optically sorted. So basically after they're stemmed, they're taking a photo with a high-speed camera, and then all the green matter, the leaves, the stems get kicked out, and so we have this rich, ripe, the right fruit we're looking for. And so each site becomes more defined, so each area. So when we're tasting, we say, oh, that's definitely Dina. It's got that white pepper, that structure. Oh, this is Eldo. Oh, delicious. And so it allows us to improve quality in the winery once it's in. But of course, it always starts with the vineyard work and what we do in the vineyard.
Yeah. I mean, you can't make great wine from crappy grapes. It's just how it works. So we have to start with the best raw material and preserve that all the way through the winemaking process. And something that we always tell the cellar guys is when that fruit arrives at the winery, that's the best quality you will ever have. And everything we choose from that point forward of picking to bottling is either going to preserve that quality or compromise it. So we do everything we can to preserve that quality, whether it's optical sorting, how we treat the wine during fermentation, and our winemaking is incredibly low intervention. We optically sort it, it goes into a tank. If we need to adjust the acid, if we need to add yeast, and it gets pumped over, and then it goes to barrel, which are behind us. It's very, very simple. But it's all about preserving that fruit intensity.
Let's dive into barrels a bit more. Tell us more about the barrel regime.
Why don't you tell us about it, because you're the winemaker up here?
Well,
I think you're doing notes.
a freight train, so I'll just throw you the carrot and see what happens.
Just handball it straight back.
Oh, that's perfect. We do 10% new oak, and a lot of that, 90% is all old oak.
Actually, behind your head there on screen is some new oak barrels, which is what we use. Right there.
But as Richie likes to point out, I mean, a really important aspect of our new American oak, especially, is 3-year air dried.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Why 3 years?
So why 3 years? So American oak has a very high green character to it, or green phenolic character. And to be able to get that out of the wood has to be seasoned as a stave for 3 years before being made into a barrel. If you compromise that process and you either kiln dry it or shorten the drying time, you'll end up with something more akin to a bourbon barrel, which has like a green banana or vanillin character. But if you season it correctly for 3 years, you can have the highest quality American oak. And what we're looking at for American oak is a very specific region in Missouri, around about a 50-mile radius around Cuba, Missouri, to get the finest grain American oak, and then we air dry it for 3 years. And then, I mean, that's the signature of Rombauer's Inn, is that barrel. So
Awesome. I
See,
tell you what.
now you know why I asked him the barrel question.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, from the joy of cooking, you know what I love to pair this with, Andrew? Baby back ribs.
Oh,
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with really any barbecue, but really ribs and Zin.
look at those
I mean,
ribs on
any
screen.
barbecue thing like
Those
that
ribs look
matches perfectly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now that
well,
we've had a glass of wine, I'm starving.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, how come you guys always seem to get the food when you guys do these, and when there's no food when
When
I'm
you're
doing
on, you miss out. Yeah, it seems to be how it works.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Michael, what's our next one? Eh?
Well, let's talk about the single vineyard series. So we've obviously got a Fiddletown and an Eldorado blend, but diving into the Fiddletown, this is the wine that's available for only a few hours.
4
so
hours
it's probably
and 45
4.5
minutes,
hours now.
4 hours and 45 minutes. You
There
can
you
purchase this
go.
wine.
Well, especially before the holidays.
Otherwise,
really,
you're going to have to wait until January.
yeah.
The reason is that we are holding this out until January is that typically this is this is our cult wine. It basically sells out every year. It goes to our Zin Club members and to a few others that are lucky enough to buy it at the tasting room. Other than that, it's very difficult to find. But why single vineyard? Why did we choose Fiddletown? Well, we've been sourcing fruit from Gino Rinaldi for about 20 years. We started in 2000.
Yep.
And what's special about Fiddletown is it's one of the smallest AVAs in California.
Second smallest.
Second smallest.
There is one that's up.
And it's got 1,000 plantable acres. It's actually 11,500 acres in total, but it's only 1,000 plantable acres, of which Gino Rinaldi has circa 100 acres.
Nah, 60.
60?
60 vine
60
acres.
vines,
He has 100 acres land, he has 60 vine acres.
There you go, see?
He's still in
Anyway,
training.
so what makes the Fiddletown blend is we don't get all the fruit from Gino Rinaldi that makes the Fiddletown blend. It sometimes goes into the classic blend, but most of the Gino Rinaldi single vineyard comes from Old Vine Zinfandel.
Actually, no, all of it. So we select the best blocks from the Old Vines Inn from Gino out we get to make this wine.
So there we go.
Bing.
Again, the X factor kicks in. But it's all Old Vine, and as we touched on, a lot of it is own rooted, which is kind of unique. Most people don't know that pretty much all vines now are grafted, which means they are trying to address nematodes, which are microbes in the soil, or they're trying to address phylloxera. All of these are pests in the vineyard that stunt the growth or
Kill the vines.
kill the vines or inhibit quality. But a lot of the old vines have kind of stood the test of time, I guess.
Yeah, part of the thing up here is the soils are all decayed granite, so they have a high amount of sand, so the soil doesn't crack. So you can't get, well, the phylloxera can't get between the soil to get to the next vine. We see the same thing in McLaren Vale in Australia, where we have sandy soils. A lot of old vine vineyards plant on their own roots, and they've never had problems with phylloxera because the phylloxera can't move through the soil. And we see the same thing up here. In a lot of the old vines in these like decayed granite sandy soils that are high in iron, that the phylloxera can't get to the roots and it can't attack them. So we have these absolute treasures, these old vines Zinfandel vineyards that make wine that is truly world class. If this was in France, I mean, these vineyards would be millions of dollars an acre, the wine would be thousands of dollars a bottle, but it's up here in Amador and it's like this quiet little secret that nobody knows about, that you have these old vine vineyards that are phenomenal, and you can buy
I mean,
a
luckily,
world-class wine for $60.
thank
So
God
the
they have
good-
lived.
The
Because,
good
I
thing
mean,
about it is being Fiddletown, it's a little bit higher elevation.
Yep.
So and Gino tends to be in a little bit of a pocket within Fiddletown. It's a little bit of an amphitheater, so the microclimate in there is pretty unique and special. And so if you ever get the chance and you come to our tasting room up here in Plymouth, it's just round the corner on Ostrom Road, and you meander your way through there to get to Fiddletown from here. It's a really nice little town, and I'd encourage you to do it, and you'll see it's a really unique part of the world.
Oh, it's amazing.
And the beauty about the Old Vine's Inn and the climate out there, it results in a really elegant, soft, delicate wine.
Yeah, put your nose in it.
And it's distinctively different from our classic, as well as our Eldorado blend, and then obviously our prop blend.
But it's just so lifted. I mean, the aromatics on
This
this.
one's got a really dark color, 18.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
18s
is.
are
It's-
very dark in their fruit
Sometimes
profile.
this one's not as dark and as
Yeah.
rich. In other vintages, sometimes it looks a lot weak and light, but when
Light,
you,
not weak.
just light.
I said light.
Yeah, yeah.
He said it looks like in
It
wheat.
looks translations, but it looks a lot lighter. But even though it looks lighter, once you taste it, it's got this depth, this weight, and
Well, that's the thing you can't fake, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
X factor about these Old Vine Zinfandel vineyards is, even though it's lighter in color, it's
don't
heavier.
judge a wine by its color.
Never judge
Yeah.
a wine by its color.
But I mean, the fruit concentration is just a concentration on the palate. But there's something aromatically
really
to me about
aromatic,
Gino Rinaldi's vineyard that always pops.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like floral raspberries, and it's
I mean, you see it
lifted.
in tank.
Yeah.
Like when we're going through and we're tasting ferments and
You can
tasting
tell.
tanks.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times there's the lot number on the tank. It doesn't say the name of the vineyard, and we get to it, and it sort of freaked you out. I'll be like, oh, this is Rinaldi, or oh, this is Crane, or oh, this is Sleeper, from the taste, because they're so distinct in these Old Vine character. And you know, we could make a plethora of single vineyard wines, but we have very few vineyards which I consider to be truly world class. And Gino Rinaldi's Fiddletown vineyard, what all our customers know as the Fiddletown, is one of those wines.
It's a complete wine on its own.
So the thing for me, the unique thing is that creaminess on the palate. So you
mid
talk
palate,
about
yeah.
raspberry, but that creaminess for me is very unique in a red wine. So like for me, this is raspberries and cream with a really nice lick of vanilla oak on the upfront palate, but then on the back you've got this really nice toasted oak and spice on the finish.
It's multi-layered as well. Like I get behind that ripe fruit and that red, like raspberry cake, there's this black tea character in between the spice and the fruit.
Yeah.
And to me, that is like a quintessential Zinfandel quality. You get this black tea quality, and it's
It's impressive.
yeah, it's an amazing wine.
Now, the one thing that I'm also getting a question about on here is what are the good boys' names?
Someone's been looking at the four of us wearing shorts, so we've got
Oh, they're sleeping.
They're the ones that make him look good in the vineyard in the video.
yeah, they're actually not my dogs.
Quick, get your legs out the way, Luke. Look at that. Flex the muscles. That's
good
it.
old
Oh,
boys.
nice. Great
Those,
job.
those guys are all tuckered out.
Yeah.
They've been chasing the ball. I bet they have 40 miles
So we
on
got
each.
Murphy and Oscar. So Irish Murphy and Oscar Wilde.
Who are both totally out. And I
Yeah.
promise you, they haven't had any wine.
So yeah,
Food pairings.
What would you have this with, Michael?
that is great. Given that Halloween is around the corner and it is
And
time
Or
for
Thanksgiving.
And Thanksgiving for,
Thank
us
you.
Americans.
He likes finishing sentences. You're so right about that. And he's only 2 glasses in.
The bubbles. That was had earlier.
What about brown pecan pie?
Yeah, I think that would work really well. I mean, the fruit intensity on that with the savoriness of and the sweetness of the brown pecans.
Yeah.
Doesn't that
Would
look
be
great?
delicious.
Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, mine wouldn't turn out like that, but it would hopefully taste okay.
All right. Well, we've gone through the Fiddletown.
good.
What makes
Yeah,
the
very
Eldo? What
The
makes
next
the
single
Eldo
vineyard
different?
wine.
Well, yeah, so the next single vineyard, the Twin Rivers.
And we only make 2 single vineyard Zinfandels. Like we have access to a lot of vineyards, but these are the only 2 we feel are truly
Complete.
complete and world class.
So, Twin Rivers Zinfandel. So this, as we mentioned earlier, it comes from our state Twin Rivers property, which is just a few miles down the road as the crow flies. But 148 acre vineyard. We separated it into about, I would say like 40 blocks,
Yeah, I
year
think
in,
so.
year out.
Yeah.
You know, on the vineyard we have Petite Straw planted, which this is about 10% Petite Straw, 90% Zinfandel. Zinfandel, of course. And then we have some really special port varietals, Trigo Nacional, Tinta Cal, Susal, and
Amarelo.
That goes in our
Amarelo.
Solera.
Yeah, and that goes in, the Solera, which is a really unique, special wine.
Yeah, it's a non-vintage
Port
Portuguese
style.
style port wine. But yeah, the bulk of or the main part of the vineyard is Zinfandel.
Zinfandel. And it's an amazing, like if you can actually be there and see it, it's at about 1,600 feet and it's these rolling hills up at elevation and it has incredible exposures and it's been planted to multiple different clones of Zinfandel, different rootstocks, and you're getting different sun exposure. So you have where you start picking it about, let's say, late August, and you finish about mid-October. So you have such a array of ripening as
for
well
a single vineyard that you pick it over a month and a half.
And it's incredible the consistency of the flavor profiles within the vineyard.
Yeah, it is.
And it always tends to deliver that like depth, concentration, brooding. I mean, you can look at it, I guess.
It's the darkest of the Zins.
Yeah, it is. It has that depth concentration. It is the brooding wine, black currant, blackberry, all of that comes out on the palate, as well as some spice, and obviously we use a little bit of American oak to get that vanilla, which really ties it together.
When we purchased that vineyard in 2011, it was about 150 acres, about 50 was planted, and that was blocks that we'd worked with in the past and we knew pretty well. About 50 of it was left as young vines, totally neglected, just left derelict, and there was about 50 acres of fallow that was unplanted. So those established vineyards we nursed back to health and retrained and spent a lot of time and effort on cover crops and replenishing the soil and rebuilding the soil structure to get these vineyards healthy.
Rock removal.
A lot of
rattlesnake removal.
A lot of rattlesnake removal. The 50 acres that was young vine that had been left derelict, we cut back to a single bud, worked with the soil again the same way and retrained those out. And then we planted another 50 acres out there. And with those 50 acres we planted a couple of clones of Zinfandel that we know and love, that we've worked with before. We planted a couple of new clones. But the most exciting part was we actually took cuttings from Gino Rinaldi and Tom Dillian and Ken Diva and Johnny Ferrero and propagated them out. So we planted a bunch of heritage clones. So clones that are so old that nobody knows where they came from, but they're from these vineyards that we know and have worked with for a long time, that we know are high quality. And so we have a few special blocks.
And they really do, you see, especially.
17B we tried today in tank 34. And that's a Rinaldi clone, and it was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
It's actually 43. It's just
43. That's what
People don't care about the tank.
Not the numbers.
There's a lot of takes.
Sorry, it took me a while to cotton on.
And back to like our naming of vineyards, it's the Twin Rivers because we have two rivers flowing on the outside of it.
Yeah, it's
so the middle and south fork of the Consommé is river.
We're very clever.
Yeah, we are.
Names, aren't we?
Name things by place.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about both single vineyard wines.
Yes.
What are the key differences between them, if you can sum them up nicely, because a lot of people might be getting slightly confused.
Well, I think the Fiddletown's way more elegant, lifted aromatics, and
very floral.
really floral raspberry. And I think the Eldorado Twin Rivers is much more brooding, a little bit more like dark depth.
Yeah, dark.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say more. I wouldn't say it has more depth.
boysenberry. It's darker in its fruit profile.
I wouldn't say it has more depth. It's just a different, fruit profile.
And it has
the biggest
a little more toast, a little more graphite,
a little bit more tobacco.
a little more tobacco.
So it's a bit bigger, a bit fuller,
it's a
but still
fuller wine.
smooth and silky. And
So to dive into it a little bit more, Eldorado is on a mountaintop. Gino Rinaldi is in an amphitheater where it captures a lot of the climate. So I think those are really good polarizing examples of some Zinfandel, which are not really,
that far across.
As far as the crow flies.
They're very close on it. They're at the same elevation.
Pretty similar, right?
One's 100 years old. The oldest blocks at Twin Rivers are about 20 years old. But they're very different in their flavor profile and their depth of concentration. Right. So Eldo's just dark and muscular and brooding and full and kind of whacks you in the face with flavor, whereas Gino Rinaldi is elegant and poised and
it dances a little bit.
Glove.
It is like a velvet glove.
Whack! This is awesome.
Iron fist in the velvet glove just smacks you with flavor. It's very subtle.
All right.
But both delicious. I mean, I would recommend having both and then just seeing.
Did you say what you have?
The thing is, you can only get that Fiddletown tonight for 5 hours, and then you'll have to wait to January.
Until 2021, and who knows what happens in the next year. But,
Andrew, if you're going to eat something with this, with the joy of cooking, what are you going to have?
Yeah, it would be my classic Italian meatballs with tomato sauce.
I hear you're very good at your meatballs.
You're good at your meatballs.
I'm an expert. I've been trained by the best.
And you did a live cooking show with a local restaurant in Napa, and made some meatballs. And he made some pretty big balls.
I would say they were delicious. Any Italian food, anything that stands up to big flavors.
You need something rich.
You need something hearty.
Yeah.
I mean, the short rib,
or something like that,
or that short rib.
Ooh,
Yeah. Anything beefy.
Beefy.
All right, so we've talked about single vineyard.
Yep.
and the classic Rombauer's in.
Yep.
We're jumping to prop. What makes prop?
Oh,
well-
Sorry, as we're getting a bit lazy here, we call it the proprietary
Yeah, proprietor
selection.
selection. So,
What makes it unique?
well,
Well, when you ask me, here we go. All right, so every year we have about 80 different lots of Zinfandel and Petite Sirah, and we really keep them all separate. So each year when we go to our tasting, we actually pick the individual best lots, and we'll go through them twice and then narrow them down to a few of the best ones. And we're not tied to a certain vineyard like the Twin Rivers or Rinaldi. We just basically go pick anywhere for Amador, Fiddletown, or Twin Rivers, and we go pick individual lots. And then inside those individual lots, about 30 barrels we pick. So from there we go taste. If a lot has 100 barrels, we'll taste them all and pick the best barrels. And so if I had it in my glass,
I guess I have to be more active with this.
I'll tell you about it.
You know
But,
what? I think like everyone viewing, the accent just ties me in.
But so yeah, basically every year, this is a selection of the best vineyards, the best lots, the best barrels that we have here in our Zinfandel program. So this one is 90% Zinfandel this year and 10% Petite Sirah. The barrel program, as we said earlier, it does fluctuate between years. I think this one's about 25-30% New American oak, but it can, because the concentration and depth is a lot more, it can handle the more oak and more structure in the wine. Just seems to eat it up.
What's interesting as well, when we're making this wine, if the single vineyard wines, we're limited to that particular vineyard, and that's all we have to work with. And it takes a lot of precision and care to make a single vineyard wine and make it great every year. But with the proprietor selections Zinfandel, it can come from anywhere. So we're not tied to a particular vineyard. We're looking for the wines with the most depth and concentration to make the richest, fullest, most densely flavored wine we have. So some years it might be predominantly Eldorado. Some years it has a bit of Gino Rinaldi's in it. Some years it can have Diva in it, or Dillian, or Johnny Ferrero. It can come from anywhere. And we're looking for a particular character to make this wine. And so if a vineyard's not up to snuff in any particular year and it hasn't fired on all cylinders, there's no free rein to get into this wine. You've got to pass the test, and that is the taste test. And if you're not there, you don't get to go in it. So it's the creme de la creme and the top of the top selection of barrels that we have.
Well, let's taste it. What do you guys see?
So I'm hearing that it's a really consistent blend, mainly because every year you're picking the eyes out of circa 1,000 barrels?
About 1,200 barrels, And we pick out the best 30.
Go
45.
through barrel by barrel.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there is a consistent element to it. Each vintage will have their slight characters that present themselves, and depending on the vineyard that goes into it, especially Eldorado, you'll see that come out more. But in certain years where other vineyards make it, it's really exceptional. But you see that depth, concentration. I think this has the best elements of both as well, of the single vineyards even, because it has those aromatics and lift, but also the plushness on the palate and the depth and concentration.
So it's really highlighting the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's
a
really,
highlight of the year, exactly.
In 18, it's super fruit forward, plush, it's beautifully drinking right now.
Yeah.
Wines and
So I really love the 18s, how young they are right now.
yeah,
And how open.
especially just being released.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely have a brightness to fruit, or brightness of the fruit intensity that
Right.
makes them immediately appealing on release. They're definitely not wines where you have to go, oh, it's okay, this will be good in 10 years.
Yeah,
There's
well,
none of that rubbish.
Age
It's just-
potential too.
but they have the right structure to age. So they
Well, all
have
of these.
acid, they have balance.
Structure.
All right, so we're all itching to know, right? We're in 2020. It's been a gut-wrenching year,
It's a
right?
polite way of putting it.
And we talk about the proprietary selection. What are we going to see? What are we, everybody's been to all the vineyards and everybody's seen everything. How do we feel? You've tasted all the tanks. You've seen all of the single vineyard stuff. What are we feeling 2020 has offered?
I think
Depth.
Well, I think intensity of fruit, really. I mean, I really think there's an intensity and purity to it. I think will really come through.
They're definitely very high color wines. We've seen
Yeah,
very...
they are. They're incredibly incredibly big wines.
Yeah.
Especially for Zinfandel.
High tannin, high color.
Yeah. But with the
Lots of bound and like polymeric anthracene,
Yeah, we're
which makes the
geeking out
wine
now.
very, very
but
plush and round
with
with
that
great
fruit
depth.
intensity, even though the tannins are high, you don't get a tannic wine.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
basically perfectly balances that fruit intensity with tannin, with acid,
Yeah.
and color, and you get these.
Well, that's the key. is
Like to
that
put it
balance.
in layman's terms for the customers at home and our viewers, generally when we see very high color, we see very high fruit intensity. And there's a very strong linear link between high color and fruit intensity. And fruit intensity is what we're looking for, and that's how we judge quality. So when we see years with very high color, like 2020, we peg those as very high quality years. And probably the classic example is 2013. It's probably the highest color year I've ever seen. And
Near and dear
I
to
think
his heart.
For Zinfandel, 2020 is probably the highest color year I've ever seen in my 17 years at Rombauer. And
Yeah.
Next year's
don't
going
mess
to be
it
a
up,
good
mate.
one.
So we talk about
The
that,
early
which
days.
means that you're probably going to get a wine that ages better,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yep.
but that doesn't necessarily circumvent drinking earlier.
No.
So
No,
if you
not when
like
you have that
fruit
amount
and
of intensity.
opulence,
Yeah.
right?
Well, the thing is,
like
like a
drinking
year like this as well, with that amount of tannin, you've got to be careful not to over extract the wine. And that's something I feel we've mastered at Rombauer better than anyone else, is how do we balance that amount of intensity of fruit and color. And when you have really high color and fruit, you tend to get high tannin as well. It's just what happens in the grape skin. So how do you balance that, and how are you careful? And that's something we're very, very good at. So we can make these really high quality wines that have the ability to age, yet have that soft tannin structure. So they're great to drink young. But if you want to put it away for 5 to 10 years or longer, it's going to be able to do that. And the great thing about Zinfandel, especially our Zinfandel and these old vine vineyards, is they have really sound acidity. So they have the right chemical structure to age more than 1 or 2 years in the bottle, and the best ones can go more than 10. So we're
So
really, really lucky.
realistically, 2020 looks like a little bit of a diamond in the rough in terms of what we've seen elsewhere in the state.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
out here, it
Certainly.
sounds
If
and
you were
looks pretty
able
good.
to get your fruit either in before the fire or be in a region that wasn't affected by the fire, 2020 will be a classic year. And there will be fantastic wines made this year. I mean,
There will.
it's honestly, for some stuff, it might be the year that got away because of the fires. But the stuff that's okay, it's going to be
Just looking at the vineyards, the
Magical.
potential was
Yeah, potential.
off
Huge
the charts.
potential.
Off the charts.
Yeah.
Really.
I know I could enjoy this sit by the fire, but you know it's
What
going to
about our
fall
tasting
in
room, though?
autumn. And,
fall and autumn. It's going to be
so
amazing.
I think like a beef pot roast would be pretty awesome right now. Some pretty good wine.
or pot roast up on the
Oh,
screen.
there it is. Look at that.
Look at
Doesn't
that.
have- They're just screaming
that
like
looks delicious.
winter time.
That's my kind of dish.
Well,
It does.
thing is,
Beef in a
because-
pot.
Beef in a pot. Because the proprietor Zinfandel has so much depth and concentration, you wouldn't pair this with a light, delicately flavored dish.
No,
would
you need something to stand
You
up
need
to
something
it.
to stand up
Yeah.
to it. You know, we've talked a lot about short ribs and baby back ribs and pecan pie.
Right.
But pot roast for this, because it's going to have the most intensity of flavor and it has a savoriness to it.
Yeah.
You could put some rosemary in your pot roast, some herbs, some bay leaves,
Yeah.
which are going to pair in the background with the spice of the wine. You can really help
Yeah, and I
carry
think
it, and you got to have a food dish that'll stand up to the.
you do.
The sheer
I think something that
concentration of
that
wine.
would do really well is pork, just because like pork and fig and like that fruit
Oh, yeah,
compote
yeah.
with
The
it,
sweetness.
like just with the Zinfandel, or especially the reserve Zinfandel, would do incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, short ribs,
The short ribs would be good too.
slowly braised short ribs.
So
It's a Rombauer classic.
I'm going out for someone to make me those.
Yeah, it's too much work.
So
Yeah.
we've talked a little bit about cooking, a little bit about Sierra Foothills. We had a guest here a couple of weeks ago.
We did. We had Shauna Rombauer was here. So Shauna Rombauer is one of the owners of Rombauer Vineyards. She was here about 2 weeks ago, and we managed to get a little clip of her so she can talk about what makes this region so special and why we all love it so much.
Hi, I'm Shauna Rombauer, and I'm here at Rombauer Sierra Foothills Tasting Room, and I'd like to welcome you to come and explore our property and taste our wines. Back in the mid-90s, my dad started coming to this area, Amador County, Sierra Foothills, to look to source fruit for our Zinfandel program. And he was able to come this way and meet some outstanding growers and source some old vine fruit. What makes this area so special is the land, the generation of farming year after year, family to family. Small community makes it very special. I would say most of all the people that are out this way. When you arrive at our tasting room and winemaking facility at the Sierra Foothills, you can expect peace and quiet, a welcoming, knowledgeable staff, indoor and outdoor tasting. We have felt very welcomed here in the Sierra Foothills. It is small and quiet, reminds me of where my mom and dad grew up. It is an outstanding community, and we are very privileged to be a part of that now. So on behalf of the Rombauer family and the entire Rombauer team, we invite you out to the Sierra Foothills to enjoy our beautiful tasting room and the beautiful scenery. Sit down and relax, have an outstanding experience.
Well, that was a pretty good little video of Shauna.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
We've all, I mean, I've known
It's always
Shauna
it's
for
always good seeing Shauna.
17 years, same with Luke.
Yeah.
You've known the
Yeah,
Rombauer
well,
family since you were a kid.
A while. Yeah.
So, but
I've
yeah.
known her for about an hour.
Don't worry, you'll learn, mate. We did have a couple of questions come in. One was how the Napa's Inn was affected by the fires. We managed to get a lot of our Napa's Inn in before the glass fire, which would have had a very detrimental...
We just got testing back today too.
We just got the testing
Negative.
back today and it was all negative. So we're highly confident at this stage that the Napa's Inn will be okay. The thing with smoke taint though is it can take a little while to show itself. So while a wine might be okay now, in 12 months it might start to show smoke taint and it gets stronger as the wine ages. But as Luke said, we ran some chemical testing today with a local lab and it came back negative. So we're highly confident. We're very blessed in the Napa Valley to have access, or even just in North America, I should say, California, to some of the top wine labs in the world. And there's one lab in St. Helena which is able to run more analysis for smoke compounds than any other lab in the world. And so we've been utilizing them a lot, but we've also been utilizing labs all over the world, especially in Australia, where they have a pretty pronounced or
Have a good
yearly
fire
problem
season.
with
Yeah.
fires.
A bunch of pyros down there.
To get extra analysis done. So we're able to track these things very quickly. And if, like we said
Yeah.
earlier, if we find one of our base wines that we would blend has a problem, it's not going to go on the blend and we're going to protect the quality every time. But right now it looks like the Napa's Inn.
No, I mean, yeah, we'll continue to evaluate and taste basically every month, I think.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing lots of tasting.
We'll be on it to make sure.
And we're, having had experience in my home country with smoke taint before and having dealt with it here in 15 and 17 and this year, we're very well versed in what it tastes like, how to deal with it, and we're not going to compromise quality. I mean, that's the hallmark of Rombauer is no matter what, we make the best wine possible, period.
Yep.
And that's
Great place
just
to
how we
work
do
in
it.
when that's the motto.
Exactly,
It is.
it's a great place to
So
work.
we talk
isn't
about
it?
not compromising quality, but we're definitely not changing style.
God no. Well, that's the other thing as well. Is we're not going to change the wine to try and fit something in, or change our winemaking to try and get the crop in.
Yeah.
If it's not able to, I should say, if it's not able to make a Rombauer wine, it's not going to happen. It's got to taste like Rombauer Chardonnay. It's got to taste like Rombauer Sauvignon Blanc, Rombauer Cab, Rombauer Merlot, Rombauer Zin. If it doesn't taste, it doesn't tick all the boxes in terms of richness of fruit, softness of tannin, depth on the palate, bright finish, clean, perfectly balanced wine, it's not going to happen.
It's easy as this, no compromises.
But at this stage, like Chardonnay, we know is all good. Sauvignon Blanc, we know is all good. Zinfandel, we know is all good. So some of the Cab, should be okay. So I'm confident that we will have amazing wines.
And then before we get out, also aging of these Zinfandels, what would you think? I mean, especially...
it's going to change vintage to vintage,
right?
right?
I mean, you see that. I think
we just tried the 18.
generally,
so
let's 18.
So 18 is what they got, almost 3 years now of age. We generally say like Zinfandel in a normal year, that 5 to 7 year window from the
that's
vintage
perfect.
date is the best. That's when you have the most primary fruit. The wine softens a little. You start to get some secondary components, some briary characters. The tea leaf, the spice comes out a little bit more. But the very best wines,
the reserve,
Like the
wine,
reserve, like
single
15
vineyards,
years?
I bet you 15, 20.
Yeah,
I had
I mean, we've seen
a
some
prop, 12 years old.
Yeah,
23,
they taste
it's just
amazing.
Like, awesome, I was so surprised.
so the best wines, you can go anywhere from 10 up to 20 years if you like a very old developed wine, they've got enough
Yeah.
acid and structure to
It
go
depends
along.
on what you're looking for in your wine.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking for those really punchy, big fruit flavors, you don't want to
Drink
age it
them
for
young.
15
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another part is will age, certainly, but what are you looking for in your wine?
Yeah, and we get that question a lot, and usually my response is if you like your wines fruity and jammy and rich and soft, and you like that primary fruit character, you can't drink them too young. And you know, Colonel Rombauer would always say, I love the quote, Colonel, you know, people would put wines in a bottle and say that would be good in 20 years, and he'd say it's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's easy as that.
I tell you what, I'm not going to settle my wine for 20
like
years.
A good wine doesn't. Sorry, a bad wine doesn't get better in the bottle. A great wine gets better
Oh,
in
look,
the bottle.
his wife's already on him. Don't swear.
So, you know, I would say you can never drink a wine too young, but the best wines or the best Zinfandels will definitely go well beyond 10 years.
Yeah. That's why I get a few. One for now.
One for now, one for later.
Another one for later.
6
when
for
you think
now,
it's
3 for
right,
later,
and then
and
one
3
when
for
it's
later.
perfect.
You were able to keep him that long?
No,
You're doing better
no,
than me, mate.
it's a motto. Do as I say, not as I do. But yeah, anyway, so we look like a debate up here. So what's your favourite wine from today?
Well, this is going to be a debate.
I think right now the Gino Rinaldi's Fiddletown
Yeah,
is
I'm with
really
you.
hard to beat.
I'm going to go Fiddletown.
Just because like aromatically it just traps you.
Usually I'm Twin Rivers.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, but today
like
it's-
today, Fiddletown. I mean,
Fiddletown.
it's really
New guy?
New guy?
Well, I don't want to look like I'm following
That's
the
okay.
shepherd, but pretty much I love
Hey,
the
sometimes-
I love the Rinaldi. Why? Because most people do not know that Zinfandel is actually a thin-skinned variety. It tends to produce wines with lighter color.
Yep.
It tends to be, for me, the Gino Rinaldi is a really great expression of Zinfandel.
It is one of the highest.
Purity.
Yep.
Purity of
Purity
fruit.
fruit, yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't think you have to follow the herd if it is drinking the best today.
Yeah.
I think the thing I love about our Zinfandels,
4 more hours of
honestly,
it.
is that there's no smoke in the mirror winemaking. The winemaking is very, very simple. We pick the highest quality fruit, we run it through the optical sorter, we pump it over in tank. Sometimes we add yeast, sometimes we don't. There's no winemaking trickery. From there, it goes to barrel, then we blend it and it's bottled. There's no crazy adjuncts. We don't fine the wines. Like they're vegan friendly. We don't.
It's all that.
We don't use any trickery to like get these wines to taste good. It's just perfectly balanced fruit that makes the the best wine possible. There's no messing around with it. And when you start with good fruit,
Makes our job easy.
It does.
it does make our job easy.
Yeah, it
Very
does.
hard our job, actually.
Our jobs are terribly hard. Shut up, Luke.
That wasn't on the prompter.
Well, I think before we sign off, I would like to say cheers to Michael.
Oh yeah, Michael,
Yeah.
your first vintage,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah,
Well
yeah.
done.
Well, I haven't messed it up yet, Ryan.
Haven't messed it up
Oh,
yet.
sorry, my screen's there.
It's actually been a blessing having someone up here rather than me or Luke, like coming up
Don't
here
kick
every
the
other
bucket
day.
yet, mate.
I'm
I
not
know
kicking
you're
the
old.
bucket
Don't
yet.
kick it yet.
But having someone here who lives and breathes wine day in, day out, and is passionate about Zinfandel in the region has been a blessing. And I know we've all had a lot of fun, and here's to many more years, mate. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so should we?
Good thing I'm wearing red, otherwise my cheeks would be even redder. So that's good.
Well, that kind of brings us to a close.
Yeah, it blends.
I guess I want to say thank you for joining us. We'll be doing this again on November 12th, where we'll be doing our entertaining or holiday edition. One of our most popular live streams we did was with Reagan Blackwood Rombauer and Charlotte
De Villiers?
de Villiers.
Yeah, say it twice.
That's all right. It's a bit of a,
Charlotte
bit of a Dutch
de Villiers.
surname, so it's all good.
Yeah,
You can still-
she's half French. And we went through an entertaining
detract from
edition.
the
So we're going to do that one again just prior to the holidays.
I love the cheeses.
And
last time.
it'll be just as fun as the last one. Actually, it's one of the most popular live streams we did, so I'm looking forward to it. The other thing I'd like to invite you to is we are doing more virtual tastings with our tasting room staff. So if you get onto rombauer.com, you can book a virtual tasting for your group, and we will ship you the wine. So you can buy whatever wines you like, and one of our trained tasting room hosts will take you through the wines, and you can do a tasting from your own home. The beauty of that is you can pair it with some foods beforehand,
Yep.
and the tasting room staff will take
Well,
you
and they're
through
doing not
corporate.
only private at home, but also corporate ones.
Yep, so
for
if you
team
have
building.
say your work colleagues or your corporate, whoever you work for, if you want to do a large corporate tasting for a holiday party for, say, your team at work, we can help accommodate that. We do have 1 cent shipping still on 6 bottles or more, if you order 6 bottles or more. I'm guessing before
this Fiddletown runs out in 4 hours.
before 9 o'clock tonight, there'll be lots of 1 cent shipping on Fiddletown with 6 bottle orders. But yeah, if you'd like to do a private virtual tasting, we can accommodate that. And someone's showing me a card and I can't read it.
And with the virtual, everybody working virtually at the moment, I know my wife in particular would thoroughly enjoy a corporate tasting on a Friday afternoon, just to finish out the work week, and particularly coming up at the end of the year.
Don't have to worry about driving home.
Yeah, exactly.
And a change up on a Zoom call would be nice.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
A Zoom call with wine.
It's great team building, right? Just don't invite the boss.
That pretty much wraps us up. If you'd like to visit us in the Sierra foothills or in St. Helena at our wineries, get on to rombauer.com and book a tasting appointment, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you
Cheers.
for joining us.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks again,
Thank you.
Papa.